This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 272 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network. This episode is brought to you by The Road to the Horse.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
Hi, Glenn the Geek here. Helena is off this week, and I was sick earlier in the week and lost a couple of days of production. So what we're going to do is be providing you a best of Stable Scoop this week. We haven't done that in a while, but circumstances are deeming that that's what we're going to have to do this week, and we'll be back here with our regular show next week. And, of course, we'll be getting into the holiday season and taking a look at a lot of holiday gift ideas for you horse people out there. This week, I thought I'd revisit an episode that we did on June 15th of 2012, over a year ago, called The Flying Dutchess, one of our favorite episodes where we talked to Katie Stearns, who had competed in mounted archery in Korea in 2008. She is called The Flying Dutchess. We also talked to Trey, who is the vice president of the Mounted Archery Association of the Americas. So it was a show all about mounted archery, and it was a lot of fun, and we thought that you would enjoy hearing it again as well. If you miss Helena this week, she filled in for me over at Horses in the Morning on Tuesday morning. Just go to horsesinthemorning.com and look for Tuesday's show. Her and Coach Jen hosted that show together, so you can take a listen to that if you need your little Helena fix for the week. Otherwise, we're going to give you a Helena fix right here with this show that we did over a year ago. It was a lot of fun, and I think it's still relevant, so you can take a listen. Some delightful guests, and this show today is brought to you by Road to the Horse. So right after this word from them, we are going to bring you this best of episode of the Stable Scoop Radio Show. See you again here next week. Don't miss Road to the Horse International 2014 at the Kentucky Horse Park, March 14th through the 16th for the World Championship of Colt Starting. Watch Dan Steers from Australia, Antoine Clos from Switzerland, Jonathan Field from Canada, and the first ever Road to the Horse wildcard competitor. They all face off to see who will walk away with the title of World Champion. Watch, learn, and be inspired to reach a higher level of horsemanship at Road to the Horse. Plus, enjoy our largest shopping experience yet. Find out more at roadtothehorse.com. I'm Glenn the Geek on episode number 200.
And I'm Helena B. Happy to have a quiet end to the week.
Oh, one of those weeks, huh, Helena?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but before we talk about my drama, what's your drama like? What have you been doing this week?
Just recording shows, doing normal stuff, actually. It's been one of those just kind of ordinary weeks. It was nice to have Jamie back on the morning show. That means I have to work a lot less. So that's good.
She had a good time over there in Spain. My goodness, yeah. She was like drooling over those horse models.
Riding Andalusians on the beach and, things like that. She did have a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and she got to play with some horses, too.
Yes.
Just kidding. I am full of them today.
Jeez. I told you to save them for the show. I didn't think you'd have any left.
I didn't either. I'm telling you, when I say it's been a week, it's been a week.
Well,
oh, boy.
I totally lost my train of thought. 200 episodes, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
200. Yep. Almost 4 years. We're coming up on 4 years.
Wow.
Well, as a matter of fact, if we take 52, 104, 208 would be 4 years.
208 episodes is 4 because that's 52 times 4.
Yeah, so, 8 more weeks. We'll be at our 4th year.
So what date around that will that be?
We started in August, so that makes sense.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So around August 10th.
What do you want to be out of the country then?
No, I want to have like a big party.
Yeah, we have to have a party. Where are we going to have
4
the party?
years.
We'll have to do it virtually.
We're having a big party on the 5th. On our 5th anniversary of Stable Scoop, because it's the flagship show.
Then we have to get together, yes.
We're going to get together and we're going to get all gussied up and we're going to go. Maybe we'll do the Arabian Nights.
Well, we'll invite some of our listeners out and have a good time.
Right.
Sounds like fun to me.
So look, we can't even be happy with 200. We're already planning like 300 and 400 parties. It's just, I need a party, I think is what I need.
I think that's probably it. Well, we have a great show lined up for our 200, something that you probably haven't heard much about. I know I hadn't heard much about it, and I know you hadn't either.
No.
We've both heard of archery. We've both shot bows before, but neither one of us has done mounted archery, and mounted archery is becoming a serious competition worldwide, and we have 2 guests coming up. We have the vice president of the Mounted Archery Association of the Americas, and then we have the Flying Dutchess. She is like the goddess, the queen of mounted archery here in the United States, has traveled all over the world, and is the one, when I asked around, that said, we want the best of the best, they said, well, you got to get Katie on the show. So Katie Stearns is going to be with us here to tell us about some of her world travels and how this mounted archery thing all works. One of the things I've loved about this shows over the last 200 episodes is how much you and I have learned about stuff that we knew nothing about.
Oh, gosh, no. I mean, it's the more we do this show, the more I realize how little I know.
And, people said, they said to me in the very beginning, and they probably said it to you, is, what are you going to talk about every week? And you're going to run out of things to talk about. It's only horses.
Oh, my gosh. No. And we get emails for topics and suggestions that we just can't even get to. There's so much out there. There is. And we have 9 shows on the network now. And look at, with over probably 1,300 episodes now. And we aren't running out of things to talk about. So no, we no way. There's plenty. Well, how many shows? 9?
Well, we have 8 shows now on the network that are going. 8 shows. Yep. And
8 shows. Yep. Okay. And we could add another one if we wanted to.
Oh, we could add about a dozen more. I get contacts every week for people wanting to add shows to the network. So it's been fun. It's been a good time. Thank you so much, Helena, for co-hosting. We've done almost all of those together.
Yes.
With a few exceptions, but most
except when we get sick or we travel or something.
But that's it. I mean, that's the only ones we haven't done together. We're not sick of each other yet. I think that's partly because we don't live near each other and only have to do once a week.
That's true.
Trey, the vice president of the Mounted Archery Association. Well, hey, Trey, and welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, tell us, to be honest, as of a couple of weeks ago, and we've done these shows for years, I had never heard of mounted archery other than in the Robin Hood movies. Is this something that is growing in popularity now? Where'd it come from?
Well, they've been practicing mounted archery since before Christ was born, and it's been a martial art. But, it's something that dropped off with the gunpowder revolution. Asia has kept it going, but it really is a sport that's practiced in the Western world. It was started by a gentleman out of Hungary named Kasai Lehos, and what he had done, he was an avid, passionate archer, and since he lived in Hungary, he would go and see where they were doing archaeological digs and see these bows and the different equipment brought up. And he thought, why am I shooting these bows from, the Western world when I should be shooting something that looked like my forefathers? And so he spent a lot of time doing lots of research, trial and error, and he started studying Asian-style archery. And to explain that, Western archery tends to be used for either Olympic style or an instinctive style, which is for hunting. But Asian archery or Eastern archery tends to be heavier on the martial aspect of archery. Archery is warfare, and so the difference is that the main difference is that Western style archery is really heavily geared towards accuracy, one shot hitting a 4-inch circle at distance, and the martial aspect of archery is more about firepower, getting 3 or 4 arrows launched in the same amount of time that your opponent can launch one. And so the accuracy is always important, but it's not as emphasized as firepower. Anyway,
well, they had a lot more people coming at you, so they had to take the shotgun approach.
Oh yeah, well, and once you get fire supremacy, then you can take your time and be accurate. Because when it comes down to a group of guys shooting 3 arrows a minute and another group of guys shooting 7, eventually the guys shooting 3 are going to duck, and now they're only shooting 1 or none per minute. And
duck or die.
Yeah, they tend to do that. But anyway, that's how it's been. And the mounted archery has always been martial because it's a form of warfare, and it was up until the 1700s. It was still a devastating form of warfare, even after the gunpowder revolution, simply because we didn't have repeating weapons, and because of the firepower they could launch. And so and the Crimean Tartars went through Poland annually, and part of Europe and then Asia. And so anyway, it's been he resurrected it, Kazai did, and he brought it and introduced it right at the point when the Iron Curtain was coming down, and people were looking for some identity. And what he did is he said, "Look at this. We are horse warriors. We come from Attila the Hun, and this is how you do it." And it became very popular, and it started to spread throughout Europe with the archery enthusiasts and horsemen. And right now, it's the fastest-growing archery sport in Europe, and it's really slowly skipping down the hill here in the United States. The main problem is people just don't even know it exists.
Right. Well, that's why we thought we'd help you out on that one, because I thought it was fascinating. I used to have a bow and used to shoot years and years ago, not on horseback, which adds a whole new element to it. But now, we have one of our co-hosts of the Western Radio Show. She's a world champion mounted shooter. And when I watch the videos of you guys, going at a dead run, standing up in your stirrups with no hands on the reins whatsoever, and shooting the arrows, it kind of reminded me, in a way, of mounted shooting, kind of what they do.
Well, it's very similar. I think they're more alike than different, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the seat position changes.
Not quite as loud.
No, not quite as loud.
Until you hit somebody.
Well, the thing is that you can do mounted archery in the city limits. You can do it without making your horse deaf, and you can do it without the heavy expense of buying blank rounds to practice with.
Do you need a permit or any special privileges to use a bow and arrow? Is it considered a lethal weapon?
No. Well, it depends. I've bow hunted for years, and most places you can even hunt within the city limits if you're hunting. But some cities have strange ordinance about they go back to kids shooting folks at the park with slingshots, and where bows can be prohibited in public spaces. And so you really have to check out the local constabulary and see what their rules are. But 99% of the time, you're not causing any trouble, and archery just it's benign that way. So it tends to be not a problem. And I think that when people see it being done, we do here in Texas. I have a school called A Company, and we put on demos for different fundraisers all the time, and they just use us. They'll put us out by the road, and we'll ride by and gallop by and shoot targets as we go by, and it brings people in because they got to see what we're doing.
Well, that's interesting. So, you're the big sign at the end of the road.
Well, kind of like that.
Hey, tell me, how do the competitions work here in the United States?
Well, we just hosted the first national championship. MA3 is the governing body that's recognized international, and it stands for the Mounted Archery Association of the Americas. It encompasses both North and South America. And so when we put on a national championship, it includes everyone from both North and South America. And so I hosted it here in Texas, and we had 32 riders from 6 different countries. And so it was the first time the folks that would host these events tended to be more international as far as bringing the Europeans over. And so we just kind of, when we were talking about holding an elimination to host one of those same events, we decided, we need to start doing stuff here more local, and it gives people a reason, to make the trip. And so, but the way the events go is there are several different courses. Different countries have different courses they practice all the time. The most difficult one, I believe, is the Hungarian. Your first shot is a target facing you as you're galloping towards it at a minimum of 20 miles an hour, and the target, the first time you can...
Well, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
So what you just said, he just walked right by that. I'm sure Helena picked up on it, too. There's a lot of people in this audience that have never ridden at 20 miles an hour.
Right. Well, on purpose.
Well, what it is that it's 20 miles an hour isn't that fast. Basically, you're running 100 yards, which is 90 meters, in 16 seconds minimum. And
how many arrows are you shooting in that time?
Well, it depends. My students, most of them that are intermediate to advanced, can launch about 5 arrows in that 16 seconds at a target.
That's booking. I mean, that's booking. And what to describe it, they're going at this dead run pretty much, standing up in their stirrups, really almost straight up, and they got the bow in the hand and they got their quiver and they're pulling arrows out. You're setting the arrows and pulling them back and shooting them all in that fast a period of time at targets.
Sure. Well, in the hunt course, it's different because you hold the bow in your hand plus all your arrows in the hand that you hold the bow, and so you're loading from your hand on the hunt course. But all the other ones require that you do load from a safe quiver, and it's, in fact, the Native American style you load from your hand as well. But they don't have any real strong set courses for Native American.
Are they really
archery,
sharp, the arrows? Because I wouldn't have any fingers left if I was trying to...
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, they're bullet-shaped field tips,
Okay.
so that they'll plow into a target, but they're the most non-lethal tip that you can
I was
find.
going to say, they don't have those big sharp things like you see at the stores for hunting.
No, we don't practice with broadheads yet. It's funny is that what's interesting about mounted archery is there's a real spectrum. And on one end of the spectrum, it's sport. And the Hungarians really push the sport aspect with light bows and fast-moving horses and lots of arrows launched. And then on the other complete end of the spectrum is mounted archery as a martial art. And in that, they want really heavy war bows being used, 50-pound minimum to 70-pound, launching, heavy 600-grain arrows. And when you go to a competition, you run into folks that are on different points on that spectrum, depending on where their personal bias is. And so I kind of like it. I really think that it's fun because you get to, you get to challenge yourself. I mean, in the end, you're shooting against yourself. But it's neat to see how the different biases do in different courses.
Now, do you shoot targets, or are you shooting? Are they just round targets, or are you shooting balloons like the mounted shooters? Do you ever shoot moving targets?
You know what? We've done a lot, played around with it. Most of the targets we shoot are the 80 centimeter Olympic style 5-ring targets. And but this year we put on a deal where we put what are they called, the targets that used for 3D competition, the foam bears and the deer and the different stuff as you're riding by, and it made it more fun. It made it a little more difficult. But in some of the targets, some of the Asian targets tend to be square instead of round, but they'll have centrifugal squares coming out. But they vary. The sport is still growing, and it's still kind of dynamic that way because people are introducing things. If you look at the speed that we were competing at 10 years ago, it's different now. And and the way the sports, if you look at the rules that the different countries have posted, the Koreans and EOCHA. EOCHA is a long acronym for the European Mounted Archery Association. They revise their rules every year for safety and to make it more competitive as more and more people enter the sport. And so it's an exciting time, and it's one of the things that we're doing with the Mounted Archery Association of Americas. We have Darren Wardle out of Rogue Mounted Archers in Oregon, and he's doing a lot with writing new rules, and he's been working with Barb Leeson out of Canada. who teaches mounted archery up there and hosts an event. And so, we like you guys work over the online. We've been doing that, trying to revise our rules. We want to make them international in scope, but we don't want the tail to wag the dogs. For instance, the speed in mounted archery has gotten a little too crazy, and there's more and more accidents. And and the faster you go on your horse, the more prone you are to get hurt.
Well, what kind of horses do you typically use?
Well, I think that it's just about any horse. Here in the West Coast, they really like gaited horses, and why not? But there's
really?
a lot of
I guess it makes sense. They're smoother.
They're smoother, but they have to canter. You have to be in a canter the whole time, and if they break gait, then it's a 0 times 0 run, and you just make it a 0 on that.
I didn't realize they had to canter. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they've got to be at a canter or a gallop, and so in order to count. But they use a lot of
so slow lope doesn't count?
A slow lope, as long as you can do the lope in 16 seconds for 90 meters, and that's not outrageous. I mean, it's not that fast, but as you start doing it, you start realizing, especially if you do some practicing on a horse that tends to run fast, and then you get on a slow loping horse, you're like, wow, I got all day now, and so.
Well, I tell you what, this is fun. We're gonna be talking in a minute or two here with Katie Stearns, who's referred to as the Flying Dutchess, and she's probably one that, from what I can see, that's traveled more than anybody doing this around the world. And we're going to talk to her in a little bit. But I appreciate you joining us. It's the Mounted Archery Association of the Americas. I know that your website is under construction, but what is it anyway?
It's Mounted Archery Association of the Americas. I don't remember if it's .org or .net. We just got a new IP address, and we've got it up and running, but we're adding things to it. In fact, one of the things we're going to be posting in the next few weeks is a map of North and South America with the regions and where you can go to get training if you're interested. And it'll host events, and we're starting to put up scores from past events, and trying to get it more interactive. And then in the next month or so, we're going to end up putting how-to stuff in different articles to help people that want to give this a shot.
All right.
The important tips.
Well, it sounds terrific. Thank you, Trey, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for your time, and say hello to Katie for me. She's a great gal, and she's a wonderful ambassador for the sport. We've never had a better one.
So Trey was pretty cool. I think that he's very enthusiastic about his sport.
One of the things we've discovered in doing the show for 200 episodes is that the smaller the discipline, the smaller the group, the more enthusiastic they are.
Yeah,
because they're trying to grow it and build it. They have to be. Yeah,
and they love it, and it's a niche for them. But, I think our next guest is equally passionate about this, and I think she's kind of cool. In fact, I think the Flying Dutchess might be the next hottest Halloween costume for equestrians.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
You know how a lot of these barns have their Halloween parades or their Halloween hunter pace? I think for the hunter pace this year, I want to be the Flying Dutchess.
That's a good idea.
And you have to listen because we're going to talk to her in a second. You're going to find out what she's all about, and we're going to put some links to photos at stablescoop.com so you can see what a Flying Dutchess looks like. But let's take a listen.
Well, hi, Katie.
Hi.
I'm so glad you could join us today. One of the things we didn't mention in the introduction, in your introduction, was that you're a graduate of the University of Oregon with a major in anthropology.
I am.
Well, it's interesting. Your major sort of, in a way, kind of relates to all of what you have done. Tell us how you got interested. Were you interested in horses first or archery first?
Definitely horses.
Okay, so you've been horses since you were a little kid?
Yep, since I was about 2 was when I first got on my first horse.
And what were you into then? Were you English, Western? Were you showing?
I actually started with jumping, with hunter, jumper, and jumper.
And how did that graduate from taking the jumps away and putting targets in the way?
Well,
she's probably shooting for her trainers.
Yeah.
Sorry. I love
Yeah. Tell me to post.
That's pretty good. That's good. That's the line of the day, Helena.
Yeah. Wrong diagonal, whatever.
That's funny. See, that's it. She couldn't follow instruction. Here, there's nobody that does it, so she could just make her own way.
Yeah, yeah. No one does mounted archery. Just make it up. No, I actually then got a rescue horse, and it was either you can have lessons pretty much, or you can get your own horse. So I actually got my horse because my mother had recently married, and my stepfather was trying to gain favor with the children, and so I got a pony.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, and then I was also at the time doing Belagarth Medieval Combat Society, and we actually shoot people. I was doing that in high school.
What?
And yeah, but with
What do you
blunted
shoot them
arrows.
with?
Yeah, that's what...
Yeah.
Blunted arrows?
Yep.
I like this girl. I like this world. Tell me more.
Yeah. Oh, I live in my own little reality.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, there's they're blunted and you shoot people, but I got a bow, and it was called a horse bow. And it came with a book written by Kasai Laios on horseback archery. And I just got lucky, and the only person that was currently practicing really on this side of the Mississippi, I live in Oregon, lived 15 minutes north of me.
Huh. Well, I used to own an acting company. We did medieval feasts, and the only thing they would shoot at us is rotten food and things like that. So we didn't get shot at with arrows or beaten with sticks. Now, so you pretty much didn't have an instructor, did you?
I did.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Well, I started with Holm Newman, and then he was having Lucas Novotny come out for a clinic, and that was in 2005.
And I assume Lucas, help us out here. I assume Lucas is somebody important in the archery world?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. No, he's an internationally renowned bowyer and horseback archer. He owns Saluki Bow Company and makes in what I think the best bows in the world.
Did you say he was a voyeur or a...
Yeah, bowyer.
A bowyer. Okay, good. That's completely different than a voyeur. I was...
Than a voyeur. Yeah, no.
So a bowyer is a person who makes bows. So these bows,
Yeah.
so everything, this equipment is designed specifically for mounted work.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
He also makes bows for hunting and things, but I think his emphasis is on the horseback archery bows. So
now, when you're engaged, because I can't think of another way to describe this, you're riding, you're aiming, you're shooting. We know what thrills us when we ride our horses in the different disciplines. For some of us, like for dressage, it's the training and then achieving that perfection. What's the sweet spot for you in mounted archery?
There is this perfect moment. And, and all the other horseback archers out there will know what I'm talking about. And that's when you are riding your horse and you're going down the course. And typically, if you're like me or some other people, we ride pretty fast. And when there's this moment when the horse is at the peak of its movement, when all 4 feet are off the ground, and that's ideally when you release your arrow. And when you get that, when you're up and you have that release and you make that awesome shot, there's nothing better.
Huh. I didn't think about timing it to the footfalls because obviously you're bouncing up and down a little bit no matter how hard you try.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do tend to stay in kind of a 2-point position personally. Some people sit down, but I think because I started out as a jumper, I naturally, when I'm on a fast horse, I get up in 2-point. Mm-hmm. And I think it's much more stable.
And women tend to do that anyway, too, because our center of gravity is a little bit different. Yeah. I don't know. I do the same thing the faster I go. I find my center of gravity is more stable if I'm in 2-point. And so now, how do your horses, do you buy horses who are accustomed to this type of sport? Do you train them? Is there anything special that they need to learn? I can't imagine that it would be too crazy.
How to steer without reins.
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
That's the biggest part. A horse that you can trust to put their head down and go without holding on to their face. But really, I think any horse can do it. I mean, I've done it off of everything from Icelandic ponies to Shire thoroughbreds to Arabians to Mongol Argamachadors. It really,
what was that?
Really
Hold
varies.
on. What did you just say?
We're going to make
Bless
you go
you,
back
by the
and
way.
say it. We're going to make you say it like 9 times.
Yeah, what was that again?
Oh, no, because then people are going to probably be saying it wrong because I know I don't pronounce it entirely right.
All right, give it to us again.
Give it a try.
Okay, Manga Larga Marchador, and it's spelt just as it sounds.
Mungo Largo Marchador. And is it? I assume it's a breed of horse?
It is. It's a gaited horse from Brazil. We use them often. Also, many people I know use them for horseback archery because they're incredibly smooth. But they come in two different gaits. So they have the picada, which is a 4-beaded lateral gait, similar to like a Pasofino, but with less of the suspensory problems, and they don't flip out their feet like the Peruvian passos.
Okay.
And then the batida is a 4-beaded diagonal gait, very similar to a foxtrotter.
Okay, makes sense. That makes sense that they would use those too because of the smoothness of them. Do they have the speed though of the other breed, of the Arab, or?
No, definitely not as fast as the Arabs. But their canters are very flat and very smooth, so I think it's very easy for people to shoot off of.
Yeah. So now you had an Arab in some of the pictures we saw.
Oh yeah, I use Arabs mostly.
And the reason?
They're my breed of choice. They're very intelligent. They're very sensitive. They're quick on their feet. They're typically, I find all of mine to be very, very willing to listen to leg cues instead of the mouth.
Now, are you steering with your legs, or is the horses just know the course?
Yeah. You have to. Otherwise, typically a lot of horses will veer to the outside of the course.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
And so you really got to keep that kind of outside leg on them if you want to, get as close to the targets as possible.
And now you have traveled all over the world. Tell us about, and according to what I read and according to what Trey said, do you go to Korea every year to compete?
I used to, yeah. This year I did not. I actually lived in South Korea last year for about 5 months, and now I'm giving myself a year off from competing to settle in my own place.
So you've gone to Korea that many times. You lived in Korea. You really do. I mean, this is your passion.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow. And so tell us about Korea. What was it like there?
Fascinating. Well, for me as an anthropology student, of course, anytime I travel, I just love it. But the competitions were always great, very well put together. It was run by the World Horseback Archery Federation. They were in Sokcho, South Korea, and I think now they're starting to relocate to a new facility. But we had people come from all over the world to these international competitions, from Germany, Poland, from Iran, from the UK, from Mongolia. It's really an international event.
Now, what about Americans? Are they as how far-reaching is it here in the States, and is it growing?
Well, yeah, it's growing very, very well. I think on kind of a smaller local levels. There's a lot of people that do it for recreation and for fun. There's not a very large group of people from the U.S. that travel internationally, not like some of the other countries that get much larger groups participating on the international level.
But
that's mostly choice.
Okay. And a certain amount of practicality. I mean, you've got oceans to cross. Sometimes it's a little bit easier but do you find that is Korea like the Mecca?
I wouldn't say that. I would actually say that, as much as we talk about Korea and as much as they have those larger events, I would say kind of in Europe itself. Obviously, Hungary is where it originally started into this modern martial art by Kasai Laios. But there's, I think, a much larger group in some of the areas of Germany and Poland and that in the general Europe.
So you talk about martial arts. Do you do any other martial art?
As many as possible.
Okay. All right, remind me not to piss her off when we meet her in person, okay?
That was one of the reasons I went to Korea.
It's not such a stretch. It is, it's a physical, you can see it. I mean, sometimes people equate riding with dancing, and any sort of physical artistry is, it just seems like horses are a perfect fit because we do connect our bodies to them. So we become an extension of each other. And then just to take whatever it is that you're passionate about, whether it's archery or, training or mounted shooting, it's, you spend your days and your nights and your mornings I guess, combining the passion with the physicality of the relationship with your horse.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think also a lot of people try to put, they're horse people, and they try to put their horses in many aspects of their life as they can.
Right. I mean, it is. It's just like an extent. They're like an appendage, a very hungry appendage.
Yeah, a very expensive appendage.
I was just going to say, if you had stuck with the 100 jumpers, your chances of winning more money were probably greater.
She'd be miserable and still shooting at her trainers, which could be kind of fun, actually. And so, what else can you? Where can you go with this? I mean, if I'm a teenage girl and I am enamored with this sport, how do I get into it? Where can I go with it? Where can it? Obviously, it can take you spiritually places, and recreational it can take you places. But what about practically? If someone really wants to do this all the time, where do they go? How do they get started?
As far as in the U.S., I mean, the best way to get started is to find someone who practices and who teaches and gives clinics and attend a clinic by them. That's the best way to get started that I recommend other, some people do kind of the start at home thing, and that's where you end up with a lot of, bad habits, just like with any horse sport. It's much better to have an instructor, I think, in the beginning to help keep you from getting bad habits. But in other countries, like I know in Iran, their horseback archery team is supported by their government, and so is the Jordanian horseback archery team, and some other countries. In the U.S., we don't really have, we don't have scholarships or any kind of really financial way to go about it. I mean, it's pretty limited for us.
How expensive is it to get started? It's your bow and your arrows. Let's take the horse out of the equation.
You can get a decent beginner's bow for $200 to $400.
Okay.
And arrows, can range anywhere between 60 to 150 a dozen, depending on how,
See, that'd be the expensive part for me. It'd be just like playing golf. I go through more golf balls, losing them in the woods. I mean, that would be the expensive part for me, right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a beginner, you lose arrows, you break arrows, your horse steps on arrows. It's terrible.
Depending on which end, that is really terrible.
Maybe I should start an arrow manufacturing company or buy stock in one.
I could see you out there riding on the beach right by your house there, Helena, shooting arrows at the tourists. Be great.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll shoot anybody. Anybody who gets in my way. I like that. Well, I remember being a young girl, 10, 11, 12 years old at camp, and we had archery. That was, one of the activities that you did, and I loved it. I loved that satisfaction of the accuracy. I just loved the feeling of the power, of the flight, of the setup, the anticipation. Am I going to get it this time? And to marry that type of strategy and, the mental with the physical there with riding, I mean, if I were 10 years old, I would definitely say this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And the fact that you can do it, and I mean, and even make a career out of it. You can, if it's something that you do well, then you turn around and you teach others. And it's like being a missionary. You find something that's absolutely amazing in your life. But the other thing too is this is a window into a broader study of life and culture. It's a fun and exciting way into anthropology.
Definitely. Culture and living history. It's so much fun.
Now
history and but even now, like, because it's practiced in so many countries across the world, there are opportunities to experience other cultures through a shared passion.
Yeah. And the mix of cultures that's involved at especially the international competitions is amazing, because everybody comes in their traditional costumes, and people like the Japanese come with their traditional Japanese yumi bows, and everything there's so much pageantry and so many colors and cultures and languages, and everybody is so friendly.
All right, but I happen to know from the West Coast, so I want to know why you're dressed up like Robin Hood.
Huh? I'm looking at
the green shirt. Kind of reminds me of Robin Hood.
Yeah. Well, that's because especially around that when that picture was taken, and still now, because I go to all these different medieval events.
Okay.
And so I have a lot of tunics and
I'm just picking on you.
European clothing.
Now, one other question about the bows is: do they ever do it? I'm going to use the wrong term here, but it looks like you're using long bows as opposed to a compound bow, or do you even do they ever use compound bows?
No,
Okay.
Not that I've ever noticed. But
so no crossbows either, huh?
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. Not that I've ever heard of.
Okay.
But yeah, the term you're looking for is recurve. Almost everybody uses recurve.
Yeah, that's right. See, I was going way back in history when they were longbows.
Yeah. and some people, I have seen people shoot longbow from horse. It's similar to the Japanese yumi bows. Also, are even longer than a lot of the longbows. And
some of those longbows can get to like 5-6 feet long. Can you imagine riding a horse trying to shoot that bow?
No, I'd be shooting my foot.
Yeah, no, I have. It's like riding with a big sail in your hand.
Wow.
So now I'm going to throw Tammy under the bus here. Tammy is our host of the Western Radio Show, who's a world champion mounted shooter. And she has accidentally shot herself with the blanks in the hand. And she has one horse that's kind of missing a little bit of an ear. So is that a problem with the with the arrows?
Poor Tammy.
I have, now knock on wood, I have yet to shoot one of my horses.
Okay, well that's good.
Right, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But have you
accidentally poked them?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I poke them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I poke them in the eye. I poke everybody. Kids, my horses. But what about your aim? I mean, what kind? Like, okay, so here's a question. You're galloping away or cantering away, and you're just about ready to release your arrow, and your horse spooks at something. Does your horse spook at something? How do you not?
It does happen. Of course it happens.
So what she's asking is, how do you not shoot your neighbor?
Yeah. I mean, you try to not shoot, obviously. And what I tell anybody is any situation to get into the habit really is if something terrible happens, you throw your bow as far away from you as possible.
Oh, okay. You just wing your bow instead of just drop the whole thing.
Rather than risking your horse getting poked
Impaled
or you or,
Right. Well, I guess like anything, you have your emergency strategies, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's one definitely. Of them. So you just chuck the whole darn thing.
Yep, just throw it.
And
all $1,000 of it.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I know.
Unfortunately.
I've had horses roll over saddles before. Step on them.
And break a saddle tree.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're out $1,500.
Speaking of which, it does look like you're using English saddles from this.
Yeah, I prefer the English saddles.
Okay. That's what it looks like.
Or many of us also more traditionally use horses built for horseback archery, which are modeled after various Mongol and Chinese designs.
Well, it's not even English saddles. It is an English saddle, but you're actually using a dressage saddle from what I can tell in some of these.
Most of them you'll see I'm in my jumping saddle.
Okay, because I was looking at pictures
really
from
like
Korea.
Those, squishy knee rolls.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a knee roll fan too.
Yeah, me too.
Well, this is great. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I hope that hope we got everybody curious enough that they can check it out. Now, if you're on the West Coast, you actually do give lessons, and we'll get beginners started, and you have all kinds of packages for that. Where can people find you on the internet that they can look you up?
Yeah, definitely. My website is probably the best way, and that is just mountedarchery.net. That has all the basic information that I have, on mounted archery and my email and stuff. And I am set up here in Washington. So. Okay,
and one of the things I will tell you about your website is you got to put the contact information a little clearer. It took me a long time to find it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've been working on changing stuff around. When I was in Korea, everything got put on hold, so I've been slowly trying to fix that. I'll make that more obvious. Yeah, make that obvious so that people can find you to come out and take lessons. How cool. Very good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Well, that's fun. I did love shooting bows when we had them at the farm, our first farm. We used to shoot quite a bit, and I did love it, but I never thought about doing it from horseback.
Adds a whole new dimension.
Well, you can pretty much do anything you want from horseback. It's just whether or not you're going to get arrested for it.
And on that note, we're going to go to our Tack and Habit segment.
This Tack and Habit segment is sponsored by Kentucky Performance Products. When horsemen were asked what they were looking for in a nutritional supplement for their horses, the answer was easy. One that's affordable, effective, and oh yeah, if it's scientifically proven, that would totally rock. Kentucky Performance Products took that message to heart and developed supplements that met those needs. As you put your horses into more work this summer, you'll be putting more and more stress on their joints. A product that can help is Joint Armor, from, of course, KPP. Joint Armor provides your horse with the building blocks necessary to maintain healthy joints throughout his lifetime. Joint Armor helps maintain fluid motion and flexibility in your horse's joints. It also supports normal cartilage development and reduces the joint deterioration. You can learn more about Joint Armor from KPP and all of their other terrific products by finding them online at kppusa.com.
Well, thank you, Helena. I picked the product today for Tack and Habit. Something a little different. We haven't had a techie product in a long time, and we haven't done a website in a while, so I combined both of them here. One of the problems that we all have, whether you're a horse person or not, especially horse people, because we tend to be busier people, we got to fit a lot of things in, is remembering what your tasks are, what your to-do list is. And, I don't know how you do your to-do list, but I used to do it on paper, and then I've tried numerous software tools to do my to-do list, and my to-do list has gotten longer the bigger this company has grown. And, I just have never found a good way to do it where I liked that it had everything I needed. Well, I think I've stumbled on something I've been using it for a couple weeks, and I really like it. And it has a funny name. It's called Toodle-Doo. That's Toodle, D-O. So it's Toodle-Doo. Toodledoo.com is what it's called, and it really does a great job with what I need for a to-do list. One of the problems I've had with the other softwares that I've tried to use is that they can tend to be complicated. I don't want my to-do list to be complicated. That's the last thing you want to be complicated. And I think with some of these, they give you so many options and so many different ways you can do it that by the time you fill out the little to-do part, your little task, you've just spent 10 minutes. I can't be spending 10 minutes every time I want to write down I need to call somebody later.
That's right. Exactly.
Did you have the same problem?
Same problem.
And it was like awful. And then I was like, then I'm just not using it. And then what do you do? What do I do? At least this is what I do. I don't know what you do. When I don't like it anymore, guess what I go back to?
Paper?
Trying to remember it all in my head. I go back to nothing. So, and then that doesn't work very well because I'm getting old. I'm 50 years old now. I don't remember things like I used to.
That's even worse than paper.
It is even worse than paper. One of the other things, too, is when I was younger, I had like a photographic memory. I didn't have to write anything down, ever. And now, it makes me mad that I don't have that anymore. And, it kind of is just frustrating. So, but you know what? I have a smartphone and I have a computer and I'm always around one or the other. So this program also has applications for most smartphones. And it really does organize your tasks in a simple fashion. You can create folders and put tasks in folders. That's all I need. Now, it does a lot of other things other than that. And one of the things it does is you can collaborate with other people. You can actually share your folders with other people that have Toodle-Doo. So you and I, if we wanted to actually get organized for the first time in 200 episodes, we could, have a shared folder. We could put in there what the things we needed to do about the show this week. We could both look at it. We could both edit it. It's great for that too if you want to do that. That's even more complicated than I wanted to do. This has really been working for me, and the reason why is as I'm working all day, I keep their website open. I keep it open to my account, and they have the quick add task, and that's almost what I use exclusively. I pick the folder from the left, and I put the quick add, call so-and-so, and that goes in the calls folder. And it's done. It's one step, hit enter, done. Now, if you want recurring tasks and things like that, if you want to, make it so that every week it's on there, you can do all of that. You can put date reminders. You can have goals. You can set up goals, and you can have your task go towards a goal. That's all too complicated for me. I just needed the simple task thing, and I needed to do it right. The other reason I really like this program is that it has a dozen different ways to search your tasks. So you can do recent, you can make a task hot so that it's starred, so that it becomes more important than the others, recently added, recently completed. Whether you modified a task recently, you can check all of that very easily. And it has a bunch of different settings when you start it up that you can choose to make it simpler or more complicated. You can just do anything you want with the settings there. Now,
okay, yeah,
it's free.
Why?
But they do have a pro version. Okay, it's $14.95 and $29.95 for the two pro versions. For the simple things I've wanted to do, I've been on the free one, and it's worked just fine. I can do the phone, I can do the computer, I can have them sync up, and they do sync up almost immediately. The syncing is very good here. Okay. And I have it on my Mac, I have it on my PC, it's compatible to both. So it's great that way, and everything I've been doing have been the free stuff. Now, if you want to go into a little bit more complicated and you want to have goals and, be all fancy and, tie your tasks to goals and projects and all that crap, then you need to pay a little bit extra. If you just want the simple to-do list like I did, where it's so simple that my ADD doesn't kick in by the time I'm done with it, then, which is about 2 seconds, then the free one is fine. It really is.
Okay, so I'm all about tasks. I spent a fair amount of time as a project manager for software companies, and we used something called Microsoft Project, which is a very complicated, I don't say it's very complex piece of software. But once you figure out how to use it, it will run your life. It's like having an organizational robot. It's amazing. Now, this obviously is not that kind of complicated, but it reminds me of taking that part of your organizing your day and I don't want to say offloading it, but offloading it to the internet. Now, back in my day, when I started in technology, there was, we had these mainframe computers, servers, right? All the computing was done on the mainframe computer. And then those of us little, geeks were out there with our nodes, our little computers. But the computer didn't do any processing. We just sent information back and forth to the server, right? It's called client-server technology. And now there's this shift. Oh, and then in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, there was a shift toward all the processing being done on the computer, on your node. And now we're going back to all the processing being done on a server, which is the internet. I know I'm getting a little geeky technical here.
No, go ahead.
But that alone that's a very significant development in technology today. And so when these applications that are available online come out and they're free, that's a huge value to you, the end user, because otherwise you'd be paying Microsoft hundreds and hundreds of dollars for one of their software packages to do this exact same thing on your own computer, when in fact you can pay nothing or a very reasonable fee to this company and have the same access to that kind of organization from anywhere in the world.
Right.
To me, that's amazing. And that's the evolution of technology right there.
Well, and that's why, most of these programs obviously have phone applications now, which means that it's with you all the time. Now, in some ways, that's kind of a negative, too, because it's with you all the time.
Well, that's why I don't have a smartphone yet.
I know, and you're the geekiest person I know that doesn't have a smartphone.
Well, I said to myself this morning, I said, you know what? This is the summer that I'm going to get a smartphone. It's time, because you've reached a point, and I know that there's a lot of other horse people who think this way as well. It's like when you're in the saddle or whenever you're doing something special, that's it. I'm doing that and nothing else. I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to answer my emails. I'm not going to check Facebook. But I think smartphones now they're so pervasive. And they enable you to do so many things when you're not in the saddle or you're not doing that special time that everybody kind of needs to have one.
Do you know what the best thing about the smartphone is? It's not the phone.
What?
It's the camera.
It's the what?
Camera. It's the camera. That's what people use the most on their smartphones is the camera.
Really?
They have really good cameras, and it's with you all the time. So you're never without your camera. You'll never carry a camera again. So they do videos, they do pictures. That's the thing that people use, especially the iPhone. The new iPhones have terrific cameras in them.
Well, yeah. And now that, you know how, I mean, if you guys are really good, attentive, regular Stable Scoop listeners, you'll know what my dream piece of technology is. And I'll tell you what, it's out.
What's that?
It's out there. It's a watch. It's essentially a smartphone in watch format.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's very rudimentary, and it has nowhere near. Yes, I'm like 0013. The unlucky 13 number.
I was thinking you were more like Get Smart, but...
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, that would be. Actually, that is a pretty... it is a pretty accurate representation.
I can see you taking your shoe off to make a call. And anybody under 40 didn't understand any of what I just said there.
No. So what was his sidekick? She was 86, 66?
No. What was she? 89?
89? 86? I don't know.
It was something like that. It wasn't 69. I know that.
00. Oh my God, that's me. Oh my God. All right. So anyway, so smartphones, client server technology, Toodle-doo. Take advantage of it.
ToodleDo.com. Toodledoo.com. Funny name, great service.
Yes. There and then you'll never, ever miss a Farrier appointment again.
That's right. Unless you forget to put it in. Yeah. All right. That's it, everybody. But before we go, did you go look at the Standard Breads at the Standard Bread place in New Jersey yet?
Not yet. I have an appointment. Hotel is booked, and I have an appointment for next Thursday and Friday.
Oh,
no,
good.
Sorry, Friday and Saturday.
Terrific.
But I did find another horse that I have a pre-purchase exam pending on.
Oh no, you might not have to go to New Jersey.
Well, no, I'm going to go to New Jersey. So New Jersey is Friday and Saturday, and then the vet check for the other horse is on Monday, the Monday right after.
So what is it?
He's an Appy. He's an Appaloosa, 15-hand Appaloosa, who's built like a tank. He's got to have some draft in him because he looks like Beaker in that body type. He's really like that old foundation quarter horse type with a nice stocky feet and good bone. Mm-hmm. But he's got a little bit of a drafty face, and he's a Palomino Appaloosa, if that's even a thing. He's just like a really light colored Appy.
So he's a yellow app.
He's not yellow. He's like a light cream color.
Okay. Yep.
And white. And
we call them creamsicles.
Creamsicles. He's super, super sweet. Nice and quiet. He's being used as a lesson horse right now in a Morgan farm. And
yay, that's what you need. It's exactly what you need. You need one that you're just going to be able to get on and go ride.
Exactly. And I did that. He's got the most comfortable canter ever. I mean, walk talk canter. He's definitely green in the ring. He knows nothing about bending or anything like that. He's got a really hard mouth because, he's been a lesson horse.
Yeah.
But he's good. You kiss to him and he canters. I hacked him out down away from the barn. They have like a mile-long dirt driveway, and he went out no problem.
So he's definitely doesn't get barn sour. Or...
He's not barn sour. He spooked a little bit on me, but they have this greenhouse, this series of small greenhouses near the barn that are sort of old and abandoned, and they were the kinds of greenhouses that had covered, they're arched and they're covered with fabric and all
flapping.
It was and it was like all of it. It was like hundreds of little flappy things, and then there was like this old
that's their
trailer.
desensitization technique right there.
Oh my God. It was like, I said to the lady who owned him, I said, this is like a fun house for horses. There's every possible spookable item here. There were tarps and there were balloons and there were things. It was, and
I get through that.
I think what he did was when he spooked, I think he actually caught his reflection in the glass window as we went by the trailer.
The important part is what he do when he spooked. What was
nothing. He just scooted. Yeah. He just scooted. It was nothing. And she's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. He never does that." I was like, "Please, I'm good with that. Really, if you knew what I've been on, this is just fine." So we hacked down the driveway, which is a really steep hill down to this nice sort of packed dirt trail, and he was great. definitely a sightseer, likes to look, but nothing worrisome. And then we had a good old canter back up the hill. And he was like, oh, who is this woman? Why is she making me work? But it's great. So there's a couple of things that, I'm concerned about. Sounds like he might be a little heavy or have some kind of upper respiratory issues. And he's an appy, so I'm going to have his feet checked, see if the vet thinks he might be at a greater risk for navicular. Have his eyes checked because appies are prone to...
Does he have the eyes?
Recurring uveitis. He does not. His eyes are actually pigmented. His nose is very pink, but his eyes are, the eyelids, they're all dark.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So, and he's got a couple of issues. Nothing big, but I really liked him. I wanted to go out on adventures with him. So I may end up with 2 horses.
Oh, very impressed. This for you usually takes years. Let's hope he passes the vet. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you.
But you know what's funny? I said as soon as I get my adoption approval from the Standardbred Retirement Foundation, I have an appointment booked. Of course, I find a horse 30 minutes from my house who's in my price range and does what I want to do.
Right, not 8 hours away.
No. So we'll see.
Well, that was meant to be. If it's meant to be, it'll pass the inspection, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And then you can get into bow and arrow, and you can go shoot off of him.
Well, that's what I think. He's the kind of horse that you could do that with.
Yeah.
You could hang off of him and kick him and boot him and, pick flowers from his back and all that fun stuff.
Something your daughter can ride and,
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, good luck with that. What's his name?
His name is Brody.
All right. Brody. Well,
Brody.
All right. Well, we'll get an update on Brody next week to see how you made out. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
And that's about it for this week. We're running out of time, so it's been a wonderful 200 episodes, Helena. Let's keep doing it some more.
Here's to 200 more. And thanks to all our stable scoopers for listening and following along as we navigate through the
horse world. One guest at a time.
Thanks, guys.
You can find all of our other shows at thehorseradionetwork.com. And, of course, you can find all the show notes and past episodes. You can listen to every one back to number 1 at stablescoop.com. I'm going to leave you with this. There was a picture on Facebook today from Abilene Animal Hospital. It's the sign out in front of their hospital along the road. And it says, it's all fun and games until somebody ends up in a cone.